Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to my video on the live letter number. What live letter is this? LIV. What is that? That's 54. I'm sorry, it's late for me, and I don't remember my Roman numerals off the top of my head. It says 54 on the thing right there. I don't know why I didn't even pay attention. Regardless, this is going to be an overview and thoughts on it, and it should be quick for a live letter overview video. Part 1 videos, for those of you who may be newer to Shadowbringers and new to the way that we do information trickling in Final Fantasy XIV's community, is they generally have like a part 1 live letter and a part 2 live letter talking about a patch. So this one's specifically talking about patch 5.1. The part 1 is usually a bunch of broad information, stuff we maybe already had guessed or known from interviews before the matter. Before we actually had it revealed here. And then part 2, they, log into the game, show us some visuals, let us hear the music, maybe show off some things that they're going to be changing. So this is very, very broad, and especially because it was live at a show, Tokyo Game Show, that makes it even, kind of shorter of a live letter. So it's even less information than we're used to getting for live letters like this. In fact, you can see the Tokyo Game Show stage right here with the Alienware sponsors, the DX Racer chairs, and the 4 Lords and the Heidelin shirts that they got shown off, which will be available next month, if I recall correctly. I think it says that right here. Will be available at the Square Enix Cafe. So there will be another live letter sometime next month. We don't currently know the day for it. They did not tell us at the end of the live letter, but keep an eye out for that probably about a month from now. I guess like October 19th-ish would be my guess. So for part 1 of the live letter, they went over new stuff. Patch 5.1 is named Vows and Virtue, Deeds of Cruelty. A very long name, but for some people, there's a lot you can pull from that, especially in regards to the actual Shadowbringers main scenario, but one of our other pieces of content that's going to be coming in this patch. There is some artwork for it, but it's later down in the translation. And by the way, thank you to Iluna, Minori, and Miuna over on the Reddit Discord. That is the unofficial translation we are using right now. Anyone who works on the Reddit Discord doing translation stuff, always super appreciative of them. And if you ever wanted to follow along for stuff like this, whether you're watching it live or watching it after the fact or just want to read back on it, that's a great place to go, is the official Final Fantasy XIV Reddit Discord, the translations and live letter little section on the side. So new main scenario quests, obvious. We saw a new Mo in the Crystal Tower. We've got her. She's not so innocent. She's done some bad things. They confirmed the first of our new beast tribes, not best tribes, although possibly an intentional typo right there, will be the Pixies. For those of you who weren't around for the various fan festivals that we had, they confirmed that the beast tribe quests we would be getting for the expansion would be the Pixies, the new Mo, and the Dwarfs. So the Pixies will be the first one. I was kind of hoping it would be the Numo, but either way, expect a lot of tomfoolery. And there was a screenshot of one of the new Pixies we'll be interacting with, as well as a large Porksy with very large ears and a hat. I hope we get a Dumbo Porksy as a mount, because that would be glorious. Anyway, moving on, they reconfirmed Yorha Dark Apocalypse, which they will talk about quite a bit later when Yokotaro comes on in the second half. There will also be a new dungeon, the Grand Cosmos, which will indeed have the trust system be compatible for it. They showed a quick screenshot here, which, by the way, looks incredible. I think it actually looks better if I just leave it like this. Getting very Vault 2.0-y vibes. I'm assuming this is in Yulmore. If I had to guess for anything, I'm not exactly sure where, but I can't really imagine it being anywhere else, and it's definitely going to be on the first. But if you think it's someplace else, throw it in the comment section of the YouTube video below. The Extreme Trial, I can't say much about it. You guys probably know already. Yes, it's that guy. They even confirmed in the last live letter that the Extreme Trial will be the final boss of Shadowbringer's initial main scenario, an extreme version of that. In case you're wondering about drops for that, probably going to be item level 465 weapon, probably going to be another mount, probably going to be another furnishing item, and maybe they'll surprise us with something else. Anyway, moving on. New trials, again, that's where they secret. And they also blue-balled me on Ultimate. They confirmed there will be a new Ultimate 2 weeks after patch 5.1, which is par for the course, so patch 5.11. They wouldn't tell us who the boss was. Now, going back to Unending Coil, when they revealed Ultimate, they gave us a silhouette, and they gave us like 3 question marks in the silhouette that showed that image on the left, but it showed them without like background and just a black image, like just a black silhouette. Ultima, they revealed to us very, very directly. So I hate that they did this. Oh, it's got to be Alexander or Warring Triad in my mind. But I've talked about that a million times over. They reconfirmed the job adjustment stuff that they said in the previous live letter. If you didn't watch the live letter before this one, they talked about Ninja, they talked about Samurai, they talked about Summoner. They made brief mentions of the ranged physical DPS. And then they've also made additional mention in this live letter of Nocturnal Astro, and that they reconfirmed there will be potency adjustments across more jobs than just the stuff that they've mentioned here. Shoha for Samurai will also be adjusted. That's one of the things they mentioned in the previous one as well. Blue Mage updates, it will have its level cap raised to 60. There will be new job quests for more story and lore. There will be new Mass Carnival stages, and they will also be incorporating the Blue Mage log, which is a weekly log that also has some other objectives in there where you can team up with 4 blue mages to earn tomestones or allied seals. I'm hoping to see more in regards to this. There's a couple things I still want to see with blue mage. Soloable, a fixed party Palace of the Dead is a big thing for me if blue mage is hitting level 60. I really think it'd be a missed opportunity for them to not find a way to make it work. So if they don't have it planned initially for 5.1, we've got no confirmation of it either which way. I hope they get it down the line, because for me that's make or break. If blue mage just gets this log that encourages you to do stuff with 4 blue mages and a level 60 and the new spells, for me that's kind of like, you know, I liked blue mage initially when it released. It was a nice little thing to do on the side. I didn't care so much it wasn't a full job, but this is one of those patches where it really needs to stand on its own as its own content. And if it ends up being that again, where even though I enjoyed it for the week and then it's like one and done, that's gonna be it for me. I'm gonna be completely sold out on the limited job idea. Just not enough going on with this overall. So maybe they just need to explain it more. But I read this and I was like, that doesn't sound like exclusive Blue Mage content, which is what we were told before. New frontline field. This, on the other hand, I was excited for. They confirmed they were working on a new PvP mode that internally, by the way, let's mark that as red, that was internally being referred to as Seal Rock 2. Now, Seal Rock is my favorite PvP mode in Final Fantasy XIV, and this one will be called the Ansal Hakair, which is in the Azim Steppe. It's an area that I believe is already referenced in-game somewhere, but the actual name of it is the Adanshig Nadam. So our new Seal Rock is essentially a large-scale version of the Nadam. Unfortunately, I don't have a screenshot to show you, though they did give us a beautiful image of the Ansal Hakair, or a Hakar, whichever one it is. And it was glorious, wide open fields, that Azim Steppe atmosphere. And of course, glowing circles. What else are you going to have? New Game Plus, they talked about it a little bit more in detail later, and we'll get to that when they actually talk about it. They also confirmed they are going to be reworking a few things as a New Game Plus. So they talked about this in an interview recently, where they mentioned that they were going to be doing major overhauls to Crafting and Gathering. Now, they've given us our full objective here. While they talk about Crafting and Gathering being very popular in Final Fantasy XIV compared to other MMOs, they want to make it so it's more, you know, the barrier for initial entry is a little bit lower. So they're going to be streamlining a few things, making it so it's a little bit less bloated. They give us a whole bunch of details here. So these changes are going to be rolling out over patch 5.1 and 5.2. We will not be seeing them all at once. For example, they're going to be adjusting more complex systems and actions, UI changes for more information, and that was a big one. It's insane how awesome some of the new UI stuff looks. And of course, new content for avid crafters. We're assuming that's referring to the restoration of Ishgard, which they said they'd be talking about more in the Part 2 live letter. So, crafting systems, actions will be adjusted, additional actions will be removed. I think that's good. I think it was kind of silly that it's worked that way for so long. A new recipe tree display option. So if any of you have ever played a MOBA or a game with a build path where you can see the item you can purchase, what it builds into, and what it requires to make, it's essentially like that. And I'm hoping there's a screenshot in here. Oh, there it is. Yes, that is an example of a crafting recipe tree. It gives you the count of how many crystals, shards, and clusters you have. It shows you the materials you need. So for the top left is the helmet item that is what you're trying to make. It breaks it down. You need 2 of this item, 1 of this item, and 1 of this item. And then it breaks each of those items down and breaks it down into, you need 8 of this, 2 of this, 3, and then it goes all the way down. So you can essentially get all the information you need about a craft in the game without needing to go through external sources. I think Yoshida, even according to this, made mention of, thanks to those websites who have been doing that, we're gonna put you out of business now. I'm sure people will still have uses for things like that. You know, just because it's in the game doesn't mean people necessarily stop using those kind of resources. Now, going back up a little bit, they also make mention of the kanji for collectibles. It's essentially just being made a little bit more understandable for new players. Certain items will always be gathered as collectibles. Adjustments to quick synthesis success rates and adjustments to desynthesis. They said they would talk more about desynthesis in the next live letter, which I only need to hear one thing. I don't mind if they get rid of all the other stuff that they mentioned before, but if they don't make it so you at least need to have your craft air leveled, that's going to be a little shaky for me. You know, it's one thing to make something easier to get into. It's another thing to make it so the market entirely is ruined and destroyed. So we'll see what they end up doing. They mentioned here. We'll talk about it next live letter. Now for gatherers, actions will be adjusted. Actions to use to locate unspoiled nodes will be automated. There was no point in those being hidden in the first place. And items at unspoiled nodes will not appear as unknown or out of reach. So that was something that was kind of novel early in the game, where you had to, you know, the information wasn't there. Now it's just kind of pointless. It's just like you pop an ability, you see where it is, and then you know every time. It's not like it moves around or adjusts. So I see why they're getting rid of that. You either have the information and avoid using the GP, or use the GP, you find it out once and you never need to use it again. So I'm glad they're getting rid of that bloat and redundancy in regards to gathering. It just doesn't make sense to have it there. Not anymore, not with how quick people figure that stuff out. And then it just makes so many things pointless. It means they can get rid of a few actions too. Another thing, they're adding the stealth action is going to be replaced by the sneak action. Does not affect movement speed, can be used while mounted. And so it'll just be, I'll practically be using that just to get around the map. Sometimes I just gotta fly over some enemies. That's what I gotta make happen. Also, quick gathering is going to be added. So I'm assuming they didn't go into detail about it. I'm assuming what that means is if you have quick gathering enabled and you click on an item, that it will just gather. It'll use all your attempts on that one item. I'm hoping that's how it works. If they can make it more, I guess, specific than that, where you can, like, without it, before even clicking the node, you can set it up, that would be cool, but I don't think they can. I'm hoping that's what they decide to do for quick gathering. Also, elemental shard yields will be adjusted. I'm assuming that just means crank them way the hell up. Adjustments to gathering rates and item yields, and the kanji for collectible being changed, which we mentioned already before. Again, they mentioned that the Holy Sea of Ishgard would be coming in patch 5.1. It's content designed for crafters and gatherers, where you work together to rebuild Ishgard's firmament. There's a number of different tasks you can do to advance it, one of which is item deliveries, and the progress of the restoration will be different depending on how eager your worlds are to complete it. They've given us way more details than this in the past, so again, this is just reconfirming that this will be in patch 5.1. Some additional details is that there will be seasonal leaderboards where people who contribute a lot to Ishgard will earn very exclusive rewards. And then you can only earn those rewards once, so that way you don't have to enter the board again to try and encourage more people to try and win. On top of that, they mentioned there will be like a seasonal festival when we're fully done and completed with Ishgard's reconstruction. There's a bunch of other things that they've mentioned. They've mentioned it as a potential leveling method. They mentioned it as having stuff for the hardcore crafters and gatherers, these recipes that take on whole new difficulties that are not currently represented in game, but not mentioned here, so we'll have to see how much of that actually makes it in, how much of that is actually relevant to Ishgard in its initial release in 5.1. Moving on, we have Gold Saucer updates. There will be a new gate. It'll have Yojimbo, and unfortunately I don't see a screenshot here, but Yojimbo is essentially going to be summoning a ton of AoEs, and you have to dodge them all. So it's going to be an actual gameplay related one that's not like RNG. You're not just jumping. It's going to be recognizing the way pillars fall and an AoE being placed here. So before you go into, if you're worried about dodging AoEs in raids, go do the gate first. Use it as practice if you haven't been using like other things already, moving on, they talked about fellowships. Now, these were originally called circles when we heard about them last month, and it's essentially a board, an in-game a message board, not a chat, a message board that works for up to 1,000 people per fellowship that you join. You can join up to 10 of them, And with that, you can use them to, it's basically like isolated, like focused party finders in a sense, with like a board where you can post an individual message about things you want to do, or just saying hello or introducing yourself or stuff like that. But it does not have chat. And I'm not surprised, because if you had 1,000 people chatting all at once in Final Fantasy XIV, I'm assuming some things would go very poorly. Fellowships will only be restricted to your data center, so it doesn't matter what world the fellowship is from, as long as it's on the same data center as you. And you can join, again, I think I said you can join up to 10 of them. So it's 10,000 people you can have access to across some different ideas. It looks like it's just trying to make getting people together for specific things a little bit easier. So like if you wanted to join like a savage fellowship, like looking for clear, like new player looking for group savage fellowship, like someone who doesn't have much raiding experience, you might have better luck finding a group of people that have very little experience in a fellowship like that, versus just going into the general party finder and mixing and matching with people who are like weekly clear, screw up 3 times, get booted, blacklisted, uninstall, I hate you, and I banged your sister. Like, just avoid all that, and just, you'll probably still get that, honestly, in a fellowship, to be fair. But maybe less likely. You know, I'm sure that it's something, it'll be better in some way. Mahjong's getting a UI update. Throw that in there. Performance is getting an update for Bard, the ensemble feature, which makes it's like group posing, but for performance, I'd assume. So it'll make it easier to form a band and play with that. They're adding a new horn instrument, and they're also adding a performance assistance feature to try and teach you the how to actually use the performance feature. So it's basically like sheet music for Final Fantasy XIV music in the game. That's pretty cool. Definitely going to see people using those, because, I mean, now 14 has a music learning tool in it. Not entirely, you know, normal, but it still has it. It's still a pretty cool idea. We know it's not... Maybe we are going more into the world of a rhythm game. I like this quote. Now we really don't know what kind of game 14 is anymore. Yeah, look at it. See? You can see the rhythm when you got to press it with the metronome. It's pretty cool. The launcher is getting a revamp. So I've had a lot of people, since this was initially shown, kind of wonder why. So for those who don't know the way that the current launcher works, it's essentially a website browser, so like whatever your default browser is, wrapped in a launcher. So sometimes things like your history and your cache sometimes screw with the launcher and can be the cause of a lot of the issues you may have randomly logging in after a patch, among other issues. So while I don't actually like the look of the new launcher as much, you know, first of all, it needs a dark mode, because I'm already not a fan of the brightness of it. But I'm assuming it won't be a website just wrapped, you know, in a wrapper. I'm hoping that it's different from that, which means it may circumvent some other issues, make it more stable. But we have to see how it actually performs, and if it, you know, actually plays, you know, well with Final Fantasy XIV and the actual game being launched in the first place. So we'll see how it works. You know, just gotta wait and see. New custom delivery NPC, Kaishir. You'll have the option to have your pet appear on the party list again. Or no, I'm sorry, your pet will just appear on the party list again. So no more forgetting your pet moments in the opener, because if he's not in the party list, honestly, you probably would still screw it up anyway, because people screwed it up before regardless. Bicolor gemstones will have their cap increased to 1,000. They're going to be adding weapon rewards to the leveling dungeons between 51-59, 61-69, and 71-79. Way overdue. It's silly that it wasn't like that, since it was implemented in Stormblood, and then, you know, implemented backwards into the Heavensward leveling dungeons. It's about time. It's probably part of their idea of trying to make it so people aren't like under item level, but that was super frustrating. I'm glad that they've finally getting it done in patch 5.1. They have new meals can now be eaten while sitting, so cool. I mean, it's cool. It works. New G-Post features. Anything else here? More details on some features. New Game Plus, they confirmed what content will be usable with New Game Plus on 5.1. Heavensward, Stormblood, and Shadowbringers main scenario quests. Now, class, jobs, roles, chronicles of a new era, side story quests, and especially a Realm Reborn quest were mentioned to not be initially in this. Now, this is almost not new information. They did tell us in a couple of interviews, if you follow those, that there would not be a whole lot of stuff in New Game Plus right when it released. But I think that originally A Realm Reborn was stated to be something they wanted to release it with. I'm thinking that this is complete speculation right now. This was not stated anywhere. I'm assuming a Realm Reborn is not going to be made present in New Game Plus right off the bat because they're condensing it or reworking its overall progression in 5.3. So they probably would it'd probably be redundant, or it would cause a lot of difficulties if they were to put it into New Game Plus in its current state and then in 7 months go and pull it back and have to redo it again. I'm assuming that's why a Realm Reborn is being delayed from the New Game Plus feature, but that's just speculation. It's just the best guess that I have. And then on top of that, it's over 7,000 quests total that are going to be available once all of those things are added. So I'm assuming it being over 7,000 quests for all of these things combined is probably another big reason. But they even said, yeah, in fact, it even says here, in the unofficial translation, they are planning some changes for Realm Reborn, which is why it's not in the feature. So there's actually no more speculation. I didn't see this the first time I read it. That just makes the most sense. So that's what it is, confirmed. There's also showing the menu, New Game Plus. They also explain that it'll break down into chapters within a story. So originally we thought you'd have to play all of A Realm Reborn, all of Heavensward in one fell swift go, right from 3.0 all the way to 3.5. They have confirmed that is not how it's going to work. You can choose to play through a chapter within it. First half of Heavensward in 3.0, second half in 3.0, Dragon Song War 3.1 to 3.3, or Post Dragon Song 3.4 to 3.5. So it will be broken down into chapters to make it a little bit more digestible if there's like a specific thing that you want to replay without having to start all the way from the original quests. They also show the UI for it, which I think looks pretty good. You can see the New Game Plus with the chapters and an artwork to go with it. So I think that's all pretty cool. But however, there's one thing that people have been asking about with New Game Plus. Will it reward experience points? Now, I did not think it was going to, but I think it should. And it seems we have confirmation you will not be receiving quest rewards, and experience points are a quest reward for doing New Game Plus. It is strictly being added as a means for players to go back and experience the story again. I'm assuming this is also not just for things like the instant solo battles that you can go back and do, but also for any of the dialogue that you might be able to get from the various NPCs, especially before or after certain decisions are made, and during those little in-between sections where you just have a few NPCs to talk to, and if you don't talk to them right there, that's it. They're done, gone, good, better go Google it. So now that I remember reading an interview, I don't remember with who, where they said they hadn't considered it initially, but if they got feedback requesting experience points to be added as a reward, that they would consider doing it. I think Final Fantasy XIV has so much accessible experience points that I don't think I'd ever choose to do New Game Plus just for the sake of leveling personally. So I'm not too annoyed, but I do think they should do it. I think some people really like that quest structure while they're leveling and not just spamming the same dungeon over and over again, even if they're just doing the story again. I can't disagree with that sort of mentality, having played other games where I can't play every class on a single character. So fingers crossed that they do eventually add experience points to it, but for the time being, you will receive no request rewards reads, no experience points to me. You'll have one autosave slot to record your progress as well. This is where they went into more detail on fellowships. This is where we actually get to see some of those screenshots I mentioned before. I forgot they delayed talking about fellowships altogether. And then you can see it just like lets you post, whenever you want to do an activity, make a description for it. But the big screenshot that you need to see is this one right here. And unfortunately, I need to like adjust it on the end of OBS, and it's not playing very nice right now. There we go. So you can see it right there. That basically looks like a party finder within a fellowship. It's called a fellowship finder. And so with, again, those specific fellowships for specific things in the game, it should be easier to find a more focused group on a specific thing. I actually would have loved something like this for the Baldesion Arsenal, as great as the Discord bots were and organizing it on Discord. Even just having this to make the parties for Baldesion Arsenal and Eureka would have been great. And I'm assuming that if we get something like that in the future, that they will probably, the communities will probably incorporate these into them. So I want to see how people actually go about using them, if they prove effective. I'm always a bit hesitant when they add new social features like this, because we have Discord, and Discord just is so all encompassing for so many people when it comes to like their online activities, that features like this kind of go over my head a little bit. So we'll see if people use it in an intended way, and if it has a positive or no impact effect on the community. All right, put that. Let's click out of that and move on. Fellowships will have a questionnaire feature as well. How are we doing? We're doing just fine. And then there's a little message board also. Oh, clear for a friend. Yeah, there's got to be a Savage Fellowship called Clear for a Friendship or Clear for a Fellowship. There we go. It's got to happen. You can add descriptions to it. And then here's a space where members can freely communicate, because again, there is no chat for Fellowship. So using the message board will be the way that you'll kind of post things that you're planning to do or introducing yourself to the community in the Fellowship, etc., etc. They tried to make this feature create a very loose-knit community feature. This is a 5.1 feature. And also a reminder, the Garo PvP collaboration event will be coming to an end in 5.1. So I didn't even see that. So the second half was an interview with Yokotaro and Saito-san, and also Akabe-san, who does the music for a bunch of the Yokotaro titles, such as Drakengard, Nier Automata, Sin of Alice, which is the mobile game that's out in Japan. They came out and did an interview, and it's one of those interviews where it's like, what was it like working with, Yoshida and the team, and was there any like surprise moments, anything that like happened that caught you off guard? And you know what? It was an endearing interview, but I say this every time we get to this point in the overviews, but the language barriers there, a lot of the magic of their conversation and their banter, it's lost so much. It's just something I can't quite engage in as much as I would really like to. They spent a little bit of time talking about the actual raid as well. For example, we know the first Alliance raid for Yorha will be called the Copied Factory, which should probably be, ringing some bells for anyone who's played Nier Automata. And speaking of ringing some bells, that vending machine is probably ringing some bells. Those will probably be the checkpoints within the Copied Factory. And then they just showed off a few arenas. They showed off a few enemy models, including what looks to be a boss, if not the final boss, which you can see right here. Looks like he's going to have some arms. Looks like it's like the final room in the factory, I suppose. And, people have already started bringing up, what kind of factory this actually is. People have suggested, based on certain events in Nier, exactly what fuels the factory. I'm not going to say anything more because at this point I may potentially be spoiling Nier Automata for anyone who hasn't played it, or hasn't at least Googled the way that the lore in the game actually works. So I'm going to leave it at that. It's just people have already really started drawing some very interesting lore theories about what's actually happening and how it relates to the lore. And one big thing is I want to see how this is integrated into Final Fantasy XIV. I'm not a big Nier Automata fan, for a multitude of reasons that we won't get into in this video. However, it doesn't take away from the fact that if they pull this off, it'll be brilliant. And one thing people have pointed out is this screenshot right here, as well as the following one. There are a few characters that we've actually already met in the first. A couple of dwarfs over from Tamra who tell us about a certain scrapyard that they've discovered. And so it's very likely that we'll be following up with those dwarfs, and that this event is taking place on the first, which makes sense. Everything else has been taking place on the first, but I know people have been speculating about going to other shards and traveling through time again and stuff like that. But well, you know what? We'll just have to see how it pans out, because them dwarfs, they certainly found a scrapyard, it would seem. I wonder if we'll need to have that quest done before it comes out. And if we do, I wonder if they'll make mention of it in the next live letter. So, we get another screenshot right here with the dwarfs as well. And so the rest of this is all interview stuff. Now, again, I am reading this off of the unofficial translation from the Reddit Final Fantasy XIV Discord, and there's some insanely funny lines. Yokotaro actually cracks me up in these translations. Let me see if I can find one. I heard players going to the Alliance raid are all very impatient and are interested in the fight. They don't want long cutscenes, right? He talks about the thing that motivates him the most is money. He talks about, he says, I thought the development team hated us because they hadn't asked us for a collaboration already. So there's actually a lot of pretty funny Yokotaro moments in here. Actually, all three of the guests have some pretty great moments, but the greatest moment, and I'd highly advise rewatching the live letter, either when it gets posted to YouTube or find it on their, in their archives and YouTube or Twitch, is they played a remix of a song from Nier Automata called Weight of the World, and I'm sure that means a lot to a lot of you. However, it was remixed in a very particular way, and as someone who's not a super fan of Nier Automata, there's no way you can't be a super fan of that theme, of that you don't of the Nier soundtrack in general, the Nier Automata soundtrack. You can't just ignore that it's a great soundtrack. And the remix that Okabe-san here did, not actually Soken, it warrants me not telling you how it's remixed. I'll say that. Go listen to it. Go find it somewhere and just listen to it, because it was fantastic. Even if they're talking over it a little bit, it's just it might bring a tear to your eye. I'm not even kidding. And then, yeah, I mean, this is all interview stuff that isn't pertinent to 5.1. So, you know, again, I'd highly recommend going and read it. It was very interesting to read some of the things that are here. And again, I found it was quite funny. We also have our patch 5.1 artwork. Vows of Virtue, Deeds of Cruelty. So you get a full look at that with a 2P and the Warrior of Darkness. And so get used to that, because we'll be seeing that quite a bit. A high quality version of it, another high quality zoom in of it. And then they just did a few announcements. There's an Eorzean Symphony in Japan on September 21st and Sunday, September 22nd. Then they'll be at PAX Australia. And that was pretty much it. Then they wrapped up, said goodbye. And I hear all their reactions being turned up. So summary of job changes here. At the end, these are more elaborate translations of that specific section. And again, it's just reiterating stuff that was said in the previous live letter. Ninja's Mudra reprogram and the rotation repurpose. Specifically, they made mention of Ninja having too many combo actions, as well as Mudras being clunky. That was something they mentioned in the previous live letter, and they have reaffirmed here. Sam Shoha programming changes along with rotational changes. They had mentioned Shoha previously. They're making mention of Shoha here. And Summoner's busyness will be eased. So these are all things they mentioned before. Let's see if there's anything else here. Melee too strong and ranged firepower raised, if slightly. So this is making mention that the entire melee role, especially with Ninja's recent buffs, even if it's still a little clunky to play, has just so completely eclipsed ranged physical that the utilities that ranged physical bring aren't valued as much as that extra DPS that a black mage or an extra monk or something like that can bring to the party. So they're making, they're openly saying this, but there's no mention of black mage, which I think is actually also insanely strong, even if, you know, the barrier for entry on that job could be a little intimidating for people who aren't used to the way you're supposed to kind of think ahead with it and plan out the fight and whatnot. But this is confirmation that ranged will be getting somewhat of a buff. Bard is currently underway in particular. They're comparing things, so they don't want to talk about it too much in detail. And we know Nocturnal Astro will be getting an adjustment, and other jobs will be getting an adjustment as well. So, it looks like they are trying to avoid nerfs as much as possible, but it's still, you know, Samurai I'm still concerned about. You know, Monk is just such a powerhouse right now. Ninja and Dragoon are also just doing really, really well. And Samurai still just fits in this really weird space. It won't stop you from beating content, but I really like it to shine in its role as much as Black Mage shines in its individual role. And you know what, maybe that Black Mage is too strong compared to Summoner Red Mage. You know, maybe that needs to be addressed as well. We'll see what their actual ideals are for it when we get 5.1. But who knows what the actual goal is, and if they can really afford to keep just pumping DPS up and then rebalance things around these new numbers. Very curious to see how it pans out, because it's very much on a knife's edge for some jobs, and they definitely need to round things out sooner rather than later. But anyway, that's going to be it for the 5.1 live letter. Like I said, a short video on it. It's never a short video with me. But yeah, just basic stuff, and we'll have more to look forward to next month when they do the 5.1 Part 2 live letter, where we'll get a little bit of a deeper dive into certain things, such as the Holy See of Ishgard Restoration, finally finding out what the new ultimate is, and a couple of other things, and hopefully along with the trailer. I'm live on Twitch right now, so I'm going to spend a couple of minutes with my stream wrapping up, and then I'm going to get the hell to sleep, because I am tired and it is almost midnight. So anyway, thank you everyone for watching over on YouTube. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned for all Final Fantasy XIV related news, updates, guides, well, when I get back around to doing them after the busy month that is September, Borderlands 3, WoW Classic, all that stuff. Then we'll get back to doing some more YouTube stuff. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one, and until then, take care.